Our focus for this presentation is the College of Engineering at University of Kentucky. Designer as a Humanist by Courtney, Casey, and Lyda. Our main definition of living is the action of maintaining life, manner or style of life, and processing or maintaining life in active function or use. Our basic definition of learning is the act or process of gaining knowledge or skill achieved through schooling or study, or behavioral modification through experience. The two important questions posed in this presentation are 1. How can learning affect living? And 2. How can engagement occur when living and learning are fused? Humanism versus interiors. An interior space needs to accommodate personal human values and concerns. Basic human nature must be taken into account. Different spaces will contain varieties of movements, actions, and focuses.
Cultural influencing design. Each culture relates differently to space, which basically means that throughout the world, people perceive space in a different manner. These each play a role into the overall interior environment due to upbringing. And this is the study of measurable distance between people as they interact. An example of this is Japanese students often study in closer groups, whereas if you went into a space and it was mainly American students, you notice that we study in much smaller, intimate, and even individual groups as relating to studies. And environmental loads also affect which cultures you come from, because in Spanish tradition, of course, the loads are much more heavier and they use much brighter colors in their personal spaces, whereas in Western European cultures we use low load spaces because we like to be comfortable and much more focused on the work and us and the space as a whole. People and learning. People learn differently through the way in which their minds work, which basically broken down means we learn from as a left brain person or a right brain person. A left brain person is going to be much more based on logical meaning, mathematical sense, very scientific, whereas the right brain is going to be much looser in mind thought and much more creative and more so hands-on than anything. Female versus male is also another aspect we need to take into consideration when designing a space. Females have a larger ring of personal area when it comes to side-by-side interaction and less when it's face-to-face contact, which means women are much more uncomfortable with a side-to-side accompaniment, and a face-to-face is much more comfortable for them. And then males tend to lean more towards a personal preference in side-by-side interaction and show discomfort in face-to-face settings. The interior application of this is America is really the only homogeneous culture, therefore we need to design a universal sense when it comes to housing students or any group setting. With these factors taken into consideration, we can accurately create spaces by creating a space that includes group and individual settings for personal time, which includes both, of course, a Japanese culture, which they like to study in larger groups and much more closer together, whereas Western culture, we prefer individual or couples groups. Maintain an area that is culturally neutral, which means we don't need to have an overly powering color palette or just a monochromatic color palette, and a relatively low load environment, which of course was covered in the above. A living learning environment is about the interaction between living aspect of education and the learning and the development. If you include specs that are universal in thought and find a correct balance in space with coloration, you can certainly achieve a harmonious, successful space for all. A better living environment equates to a better learning environment.
The future of living learning environments. Relationships are expected to be maintained through social networking such as Facebook and Twitter and whatever else is popular in the future. and more interaction outside the classroom setting is expected to be the norm in the future. Integration of living in classroom environment is also going to be expected, meaning more classes outside of the traditional like chalkboard, sitting in your desk, reading out of the textbook, and academic success being more dependent on participation in a living learning community. Technology versus interiors. More interactive technology for solving problems in groups and giving you the tools to apply individually. For example, large touchscreens and tablets are expected to be used for the engineering major and to reduce space in interiors. And these are some pictures of future technology expected to be used in interior spaces and living learning communities. Positive response and contribution to interiors. It has the possibility to make learning communities more integrated and interactive, and also explore and collaborate new ideas among groups and students. It can improve education performance and enhance human interactions. Change in communication. Excess communications technology could reduce social involvement and psychological well-being. It has the possibility to put a strain on human relationships, and we need to find a balance between human meaning and relationships as well as the technological culture. Possible negative effects on interiors. Technology is making us more prone to privacy, subjectivity, intimacy, and we may start to see individualized interiors if technology does not become more interactive.
From what we researched with the College of Engineering, we noticed that they're more left brain dominant, technology driven, and male dominant. Our survey showed, basically summarizing up what we surveyed from 20 engineering students, that they typically like to live either by themselves or with one other person. They also enjoy having a variety in their spaces. For example, they like to come back from class and relax, but they also want to have that group setting that they can interact with further students and study for tests and do homework, etc. And they also enjoy technology being a part of both living and learning environments, having their computer in both settings, a touchscreen tablet, for example, to further increase their education and studies. We also had the engineering students pick from a survey of which one they like better between the environments and which environment they felt more comfortable in. The first one, as you see, is a more formal meeting setting. The second one has more variety and is more interacting. And the third one is more individualized, keeping in your space. According to this research, engineering students preferred interactive, laid-back group settings that contained variety, and they weren't very comfortable with the formal or stationary individual spaces, showing that they like interaction and interacting with technology, which we can look to increasing in their interiors.
Okay, the question answered is, learning can affect living by enhancing education in a more unique and cultured environment, gaining more possibilities. When both living and learning environments are fused, there's a greater chance for interaction, integration, and exploration among the humans and technology. With collaboration in and out of the classroom, students can have a brighter future in both living and learning environments.
So our final question for you is, how can interaction be enhanced when living and learning environments are fused together?
The end.